I'm David, and I'm here to give you some lessons on how I would like you to water. This is something that usually sounds very simple, but I will tell you is quite difficult for a lot of people to truly master. And the thing is there's a few pointers that we'll start with, but I want you to realize that once you learn the basics, then there's more that you'll have to learn later on to become even better. So first, I'm going to show you the hose, and this is the watering wand. Okay, um, the amount of water that comes out of the wand is going to be important for you. So when we are starting here, I don't want you to have a dribble like this, and I don't need it to be spraying out, you know, way out there. We need a nice gentle spray. And then what I would like you to do is try and make sure that you rotate around in the pot and get the entire surface of the pot wet. Now, it sounds fairly simple, but the next part is that small pots require less water, medium pots require more, large pots require even more than that. So knowing the size of the pot is going to be important for you, but included in that is you've got to be able to look at the plant and determine how much water you think it's going to need, because some plants are going to have a little bit of foliage and not need a lot of water because it's still early in the season, late in the season, or it's gone through and defoliated and it doesn't need as much. Other plants need a lot of water because it's got a lot of leaf material on there and it's maybe in a smaller pot than what it'd be happy in. So hitting that pot maybe 2 times is going to be better than just doing it 1 time, so that we can make sure that we get everything good and moist. And then I also want you to realize that that circling that I talked to you about is going to be important so that we don't end up having wet or dry spots on the side of the pot. So the pots have different sizes, and so usually we will start out with a 1 gallon size pot being the smallest. And here's our example right here. So 1 gallon pot. And one of the things that I can have you do is pick the pot up after it's been watered so you can see how much it feels after it's gotten watered, because the weight is going to play an important role in how well it's been done. Now, the leaf on this is a mid-sized leaf, and so there are other plants like this spirea here with small leaves, and then there's plants with even bigger leaves. So the size of the leaf will sometimes also have a propensity for you to determine how much you're going to have to water. Now, as I made mention, this is a 1 gallon right here. So usually when you have your wand and you're going, I'm going to ask you to water and count to 1001. That's usually how much water you need to give the plant. On a 2 gallon, which is this size pot right here, normally it's what we call a 2 count, or 1001, 1002. Now, this is a 2 gallon shrub, and this is a 2 gallon shrub. So this one is larger with bigger leaves. This one is smaller with smaller leaves. This has more leaves on it per square inch than this one does. So in total, we're getting close to being the same leaf surface, but with this one being bigger, it's higher and gets more wind. So we could probably do a 2 count on the smaller one here, 1001, 1002. We come over here to the large one and we'll do a 1001, 1002, 1003, even though it's the same size pot, which is a 2 gallon. Normally, like I say, that's a 2 count, but the size of the plant is going to dictate that it needs a little more water. So here we have a group of 3 shrub type plants that are very prone to wilting and drying, crisping the leaves exceedingly fast. So if you don't do a good job, these plants are going to tell you right away. And one of the big things that oftentimes I hear, I watered those. Well, you know, unfortunately for you, or fortunately for me, plants do not lie. Okay? It is what it is. And so if you do your 1001, 1002 count on your barberry, on your spirea, and on your potentilla here, you should be good. Now, your barberry was smaller, your spirea a little larger, your potentilla was bigger. So the potentilla in turn is going to need that extra count of that 1003. Now this is all in the 2-gallon size pot. So your lesson right off is to learn pot sizes. So you've got a 1-gallon, a 2-gallon, maybe a 3, and then we go to a 5-gallon, usually a 7 or a 10, and then the larger sizes that you may be starting off with is going to be a 15-gallon. So each gallon is going to go and require at least a 1 count there, and so
you've got to be paying attention.
Okay, so we spent some time talking about the 1 and 2 gallons. Now I wanted to show you, here's a shrub in a 5-gallon. Then we've got this tree in a 7-gallon. We have another tree next to it. This is in a 20-gallon. Then we have a 15-gallon, and then we go down here to the 25-gallon. So a 5-gallon, again, a 5 count, 7-gallon, 7 count, 15-gallon, usually a 15 count, 20-gallon, 20 count, 25-gallon, 25 count. Simple, and you just have to realize the size of the gallons, and then you have to look at the tree or the shrub to make sure that it has leaves on it and how full it is, because sometimes early spring, like I said, summer or fall, it may not have a lot of leaves depending on what's happened. If it doesn't have a whole lot of leaves, we're going to reduce the count, or we're going to go and have a yellow flag in it, which we're going to address in just a couple minutes here, and that's going to tell you to skip a water period, and we'll let you know when to water it next. So I just want you to see, we have plants like this yucca that's in the Monrovia pot. This plant has been grown in a media substrate, so like a compost type material, so it drains very well. It's built for drainage. Now, this aloe here, this was dug up out of the ground. And so in this pot, we have real earth. It's heavy, it's dense. So the first yucca I showed you in the Monrovia pot is going to go and take water very quickly, and it's going to drain out the bottom. And it's then going to be able to go, and air is going to be able to refill those pores. And so the plant is going to be able to get the water it needs, and the roots are going to be able to get the air that it needs also. Now, this aloe that I pointed out has a yellow flag in it. This yellow flag is an indicator that this should be watered less often. Now, like I said, this is in soil, so this is heavy, okay? So when we water this, we want to water it a little slower, and then we want to make sure that we get all the way around, like I mentioned before, and we have to go and we have to figure out enough time to get the water to soak in. It's got a broken part here, and so the water is going to want to go and spill out or flow out of that. So when you come to a plant like this, you have to be able to make sure that you get it nice and wet and allow enough water to go in. If you just stand here and you do your count and water's spilling off the side, this is not going to go and be any benefit to the plant or the soil itself. So you have to water one time and maybe do a 1 or 2 count. We go to another plant, another plant, another plant, another plant, and then you have to come back. So this is going to mean that you have to pay attention and be able to go back and then do like another 2 count, do some other plants, and then maybe come back and do a second 2 count and get your total amount in. Here we have 3 evergreens all in 2-gallon pots. So we've got a very large size one, we've got a mid size, and then we have a very low one. Now, they all are going to go, and like I said, 2-gallon pot, basically get a 2 count. But one of the other things that I need you to realize is in plants like this that are low and spreading, if you go and you put the wand on there and it's during the middle of the day and it's hot, and you always focus in at the center and not swirl it around, you're going to damage the center of the plant here. So on some of these, I want you to go and try and get in around the side of the plant, okay, and get the watering in through the sides so that you will be able to get the whole thing and not just always necessarily be focusing in on the very top, because the top of some of these plants wants to shed the water off. So if you can go into the sides here, this is going to go and allow you to circle this, get your count in, and then you will be able to go and get a good watering there and try and do the same on here versus just try to go in through the top. All right, so a quick lesson that we have on the spray stakes, and you're going to run into these in a number of areas, but usually it's in the larger trees or in the tree line, the fruit area. We also have it pot and pot, and in the large box and evergreen area is the spray stakes like this. So you've got your base point, which is going to go into the ground, and then you have your shut off plug, which is the plugs on the side. Now normally we have 2 colors mostly, the blue, the green, and there is a third one which is a yellow, which we don't have too many of. Now the top here is where the tubing is going to slide over, and then as it goes down, you'll notice that there's a slit in the side, and the water is going to go down the slit, hit the base, and then shoot out and cover over the pot. The prong that's closest to the shutoff usually has an M indented on the bottom side down here, okay, which stands for medium. On the opposite side, the farthest away from the shutoff is usually the L for low, and the one in the center is H for high. So there's not a certain gallons, but it's low, medium, and high flow. The difference between the blue and the green, while the slit is about the same, is that the blue has a much narrower spray pattern. So this is usually only about a 90-degree spray pattern. So this is one we try and use in the smaller containers, where the green has a wider spray pattern, and this is what we're going to use in the larger pots. So if you can go and remember blue for small, green for big, then we've got that, and medium, low, and high. So here we've got this turf area, artificial turf area. We sometimes refer to it as the wetting area. And this is going to go and be the top point of the area behind me here, which is going to be shade plants. And then we cross the path, and then we have shade shrubs and plants on the other side going up, usually about 40 feet. Now, one of the things that people will sometimes get confused about is they may think shade shrubs need less water or more water than plants that go in the sun, and actually they will use about the same amount. So you don't have to get too confused about how much water you're doing, but in the plants that we're going to be looking at, a number of the plants that do well in the shade have a thicker, glossy type leaf, and so they transpire or lose water less to the extent than a plant that has a big leaf that is more matte or leathery type, or just kind of papery. So when you come across some thick leaves that are kind of plasticky almost, those are the plants that use less water than the plants that have a leaf that is more paper thin in size. Well, in closing here, I'd like to tell you thank you for joining our team. I want you to realize that watering here is a very important, or one of the most important aspects of what's going on. So I want you to take this job seriously. Realize that your time here is of vital importance and that we need you to be here on your work days and during your work hours. Now, with that being said, I would like to just say thank you again for joining the team, and I want you to realize if you have any questions or any concerns, you can watch this video again, or you can see Kat or I or anybody else that is going to be coming around to help with watering to answer questions, and we will be telling you one more time how we want it done. So please do not do what you have done at your own home and think that that's what's going to work here. But it's a very important job. I want you to understand that we take this importance very seriously. So thank you again.